Hello, this is Benjamin Boyce, and welcome to the Voice of Reason channel. Today's guest is Jericho Green, who is a man in a car on his way to work. He's been doing videos for probably more than a year. I didn't see the actual date of his first video, but he's just been making these videos talking about issues that are important to him. In this interview, we talk about race relations. If you're just listening to this, he is indeed black, and he kind of does not appreciate the certain sort of white, superior black victim narrative that's being pushed a lot. And he has been countering that on YouTube in his car on the way to work for quite a few months now. And we just talk about the topics of the day, and I get some insight from him, and we kind of strategize ways that things could be working out a little bit more reasonably than they are at present. Without further ado, here's Jericho Green. One of my viewers recommended we speak, and I watch you, and you have such candor, and you're going against a narrative that I'm worried is kind of capturing a lot of people's imagination. So I just wanted to hear about your experience. One of the things specifically that I find troubling is that from the perspective of what's called anti-racist education, white people are supposed to imagine the experience of black people, like we could possibly get into that experience. And through that imagining, we're supposed to work through our privilege and understand your oppression. And I feel like it really divides us, but maybe you could like clue me in on what the black experience is, or if that is even something that's realistic to imagine.
I don't know that there's a black experience. Are there slightly different ways we go about things? Like if you ever look at a church that's predominantly white versus a church that's predominantly black, I've been to both. They're quite different, but I wouldn't say it's a totally different experience. Like black families, Christmas, Thanksgiving, 4th of July, none of those things are different. And any group of people, any race is susceptible to bad things happening to them. It has nothing to do with the color of their skin. It's all about what kind of family did you come from? What kind of area were you raised in? And that's the same across the board. I had friends with money who are white, black, Mexican, whatever. I had poor friends who were the same. It's just all about, your place in life. I don't think it has anything to do with race, and there's no there's no experience to understand or try to imagine. It's like if you buy something that needs to be assembled and it's getting difficult, you stop and say, wait a minute, it shouldn't be this difficult, because the company doesn't know who they're sending it home to, so they have to make the instructions pretty easy for everybody. So it's the same kind of thing with this. If it starts getting complicated and weird and how am I going to do that, you're probably going about it wrong. It's probably not that complicated. People are people.
Yeah. So with regards to understanding another race, and I think a lot of that education, the anti-racist education, takes root in people who don't have enough experience of different races. So there's this gap in understanding that this kind of idea kind of comes in, and it seems like it's tripping things up. The people who teach it even say that you're supposed to be uncomfortable and discomfortable and filled with discomfort. So you're going directly against them where it should be easy to understand each other.
Yeah, because we're all pretty much the same. Well, like I said, there's slight differences, but all the basics, we're the same. We hurt, we cry, we laugh, we love our families, we have jobs. Everything is the same, and it should be easy. It really should. And thinking that somebody has a harder road in life simply because of their race, or they don't have access to things simply because of their race, or they're being targeted in a negative way simply because of their race, is racist, because you're basing it totally on their race. You're not looking at what kind of family did they come from, and all these police issues and incidences or whatever instances.
Yeah,
it never happens. It never happens to the black pre-med student. It never happens to the black law student or lawyer or professional in any way. It's always a thug doing thug shit. That's what gets you on the police's radar. So that can happen to anybody, but to just pigeonhole it to no, it's happening to you because you're black. There's nothing you can do about it unless we hop on our virtuous steed and come to your aid. That's racist.
Do you not think that you've had a worse experience or more difficult experience growing up in America than if you were white? Do you think that holds any water for you?
That is an absolute joke to me. That is nonsense. Nonsense. I am where I am because of the choices I made, just like everybody else. To my knowledge, and I wouldn't even want to know if that were the case, but to my knowledge, I've never been held back or denied because of my race. Maybe I was held back or denied because of a choice I made or because I wasn't qualified enough for something. But like I said, if that was the case, they didn't make it known to me. As far as I know, it was a choice I made, good or bad, or maybe I wasn't qualified for the situation. But pretty much everything I've gone after, I've achieved it because I live in America, and this is your best shot. It's not perfect. It may not even be close to perfect, but it's the best thing that this particular planet has to offer. That's why people come here by the millions, because you are measured by your work. If you work hard, you will ascend. You will ascend quickly. There are people that come here, and in a generation, their kids are in Ivy League schools, and they have things to pass down for their kids to inherit. So if you want it, you are in the best arena to achieve. But to think that you've had it more difficult, or someone may have had it more difficult simply because of the color of their skin, man, that's laughable.
It's really appealing, though, to imagine all of the oppression that has happened to black people in America through slavery and so on. That gives the narrative that blacks need a leg up much more weight. What do you think about that? Like the history of blacks in America, and what do you do to process that in your own life, or do you let it go?
Thankfully, I was born in a time where people had already gone through that, so I didn't have to. There were people who went through who had German shepherds hanging off of their forearms and high-powered water hoses in their face and beatings and murders, so that I don't have to. So to say that those people went through that and we've gone nowhere is an insult to them. Those church bombings and hangings and all that stuff in the South, if you listen to the mainstream mediocres and to these Black Lives Matter fools, and in my videos I like to call them certain Black Lives Matter, because obviously not all of them, right? Or they'd be on a constant 24-hour protest. So they don't care about all of them. But to say that all those people went through those things, and like my grandfather being in the Army but having to be part of a black regiment because it wasn't desegregated yet, to say that he went through that and we haven't moved an inch 70 years later is an absolute insult. And it's if I knew a word that was more than ridiculous, I'd use it. But that's what it is. It's absolutely ridiculous. And people buying into that is insulting. It's an insult to me for you to think that I need your help to get where you are. No, I need you to get out of my way and let me try to get where you are. And if I make it, awesome. If I don't, hey, find something else to strive for or try harder next time. But it's insulting to think, basically, why would I need a leg up and not you? Don't you think, that's insulting to me? What is better in you that is not better in me? What do you have that I don't have? I believe if we both cut our fingers, it's going to be the same color when it comes out. So I don't need help. It's insulting. What?
Last week or the week before, Terry Crews wrote a tweet about unity, about just kind of dismantling whiteness and blackness and all that talk and going for unity. And he was called some pretty strong words from the black community and from the pro-Black Lives Matter position. Do you receive that kind of pushback from the activists, or are you immune to that?
I don't receive it often, but I do sometimes. Yeah, and it's the same old, same old. Let me guess: Uncle Tom, sellout, bootlicker, blah blah blah. You know, get a new list of insults because I've heard it all, and it's ridiculous. And like you said, he got backlash from other black folks. See, the worst stuff I've ever been told on the internet was by other black people.
And so why is that?
Who's I don't know. It seems like they're more of a detriment to me than these evil white people I'm supposed to be looking out for, because people lie, numbers don't. The numbers tell me that I'm more likely to be killed by somebody who looks like me than some guy with a badge or some white person. That's just the facts. And like the saying goes, the truth hurts. But we need to do, as black folks, we need to do self-examination and fix our own problems. It's insulting that we need to go to somebody to get help for our own issues. That's crazy. And no other group does this. Asians don't do it. Mexicans don't do it. White people don't do it. Nobody else seems to need this help, this leg up, this uplifting, this support. I stand with you. I understand. What other group needs that? Get away from me, get some of these taxes and regulations out of my way, and I'll be all right. I don't need these guilt-ridden white liberals to, let me help you, you poor little black person. And I in some of my videos, I refer to us as the Fabergé eggs of ethnicities. You have to be very gentle, very quiet. Don't say they can't handle it because, slavery, right? And Jim Crow. And that's another thing. We don't have a monopoly on being slaves. Everybody was a slave. Ever since humans figured out I can dominate you, there have been slaves. They sent Irish people down to the Caribbean to work in the sugarcane fields, to go from foggy 55-degree Ireland to the sweltering sugarcane fields of the Caribbean. That must have been tough, to put it lightly. We don't have a monopoly on this. We weren't the only ones to go through it. We are in the only country that fought to end it. So what is the problem?
Was there a time in your life when you were younger where the progressive kind of story, the victim and the oppressor kind of narrative, that was really alive inside of you? And was there a moment when you rejected that, or was it always off for you?
It was, fortunately, because of my parents, that was never an obstacle for me internally. I have dealt with it when I was a kid externally, from other sources. But as far as in my house, no, my dad was a businessman. He's a retired Army. My mom was in the Army for 8 years. She worked at the DMV and also did nursing work when I grew up, or as I was growing up. So there was never any room for that. It was always, if you messed up, that's your fault, period. My parents, thank God they didn't waterboard me with that poison, with that nonsense. But I do remember a particular incident when I was in 3rd grade, and I went to a predominantly white elementary school. So one of the kids unleashed the terrible N-word on me, right? So I made a promise to myself when I was a little kid that I wasn't going to be that after-school special kind of black kid, meaning I wasn't always going to look for the lesson in things. If you insulted me or wronged me, I'm going to even the scales right then and there, period. That's just, I've always been that way. So some kids said it to me, and it wasn't because, racism, and it just sparked this thing in me because I'm black. It was the fact that they insulted me. So I had to do something to right that. You insulted me. I got to even the scales. I'm not just going to take this one on the chin and, turn the other cheek. That comes into play in a second. So I hit this kid or something. I get sent to the principal's office. The principal tells me, she says, well, Martin Luther King wouldn't have done that. He would have turned the other cheek. Now, this went over my 3rd grade head, but I got sent home early that day, and I told my mom and dad that. And when I told them that, I remember seeing my parents get pissed immediately when I told them that. And now that I'm older, I realize that's because that teacher was trying to use that victimhood crap on me, like, you should be like Martin Luther King, and it's not your fault, that kind of thing. And my mom, I remember my mom sitting in the chair next to me when I went back to school the next day in the principal's office, getting pissed at the principal, telling her, don't bring that crap to my son. He's not Martin Luther King. If somebody does something to him and you guys aren't going to do anything about it, he is, period. Don't excuse his behavior. Don't try to put it anywhere else. He's not him. He's not Martin Luther King, all right? And my mom was very pissed that she even brought that up. But like I said, fortunately, my parents didn't raise me with that crap. If you did it, that's your problem. You're going to have to handle the consequences. There's no myth. There's a movie called Don't Be a Menace to South Central While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood. And throughout the movie, there's this white guy in a button-up shirt and a tie with these black leather gloves on, and he's following the main characters around, setting them up for crimes. You know, there's no mythical white guy out there just, you know, putting these pitfalls in front of black people, right? So my parents never gave me that crap. I'm so glad they didn't, because I could not imagine living a life where I feel like there's somebody out there better than me who has power over my life.
Why do you think that America is so up in arms about this right now? It's so, with so much passion and so much energy being poured into this.
I think people are just playing into their emotions and not being logical about it. You know, when you use your emotions as your main means of transportation, if you will, you can be easily led. Their emotions, they're volatile by nature. They can change like that. Depending on what's put in front of you, your emotions can change. And if you're rooted at least mostly in logic and facts, you're not going to allow yourself to be pulled into this crap to make signs and go out. Protest what? I'm still waiting for someone to give me a legitimate answer. Protest what? What racism? Where? Because I don't see it. What system is it? Because we hear a lot about systemic racism. So what system is in place that's against me? Show it to me, because I guarantee you black people won't be the only ones against it, because most people in America are decent, they're not racist, and they're not going to put up with this crap. So show us the institution so we can dismantle it. But picking something like police brutality, what? Are you kidding me? If I had to make a top 25, that wouldn't even be on the list for anybody.
On the list of oppressions?
Yeah, like no one's oppressed in America. Nobody. Please, because I guarantee you there's an 8-year-old kid in a Nike factory who would beg to differ about oppression. Because we don't have buildings here and factories with suicide nets around them like they do in some places. They'll tell you about oppression. There's no oppression here anymore. It's over. And I think a lot of it is survivor's guilt. You have people that are well-to-do. Maybe they feel like, you know, they made it out, but they still want to feel that connection, you know, to the people they grew up around and to the downtrodden. I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I don't know the exact answer of why, but it's ridiculous and unfounded. And if you're really serious about reform and changing all these things, I got some major issues right here for you to tackle if you want. But they'd rather deal with the fatherlessness. I would say that's number one. Poor education, poor health. Those are a great top 3 to tackle right there that really affect black people every day. But police brutality and racism, that's nothing.
It's a very strong story. It's very easy for us to believe in this thing called racism because it's bigger than us, and it's everywhere, or it's nowhere. Like if you look hard enough, you can find it in everything, and then you have your microaggressions and so on and so forth, which just seems to make people more trigger happy with accusations of racism. Where do you think this is going to go? Do you think it's just going to burn out and people are going to go on to something else, or do you think there'll be actual change? Or any ideas?
I think eventually, yeah, it will burn out. That's just how we are. You know, we're on something. It's shiny. It's new. Until the next thing comes. Look at coronavirus. That was in the spotlight for months. Next thing you know, the George Floyd situation. Now we're in groups of 50,000 and nobody cares. So yeah, I think it will change, but this isn't the way to affect change. Getting in and destroying people's property, they're saying they're out there for black lives, but they're destroying black lives, burning their businesses, hurting people, shooting people. That's not how you get things done. You can't negotiate with a crazy person. You have to be logical. You have to be sane. You have to have a list of demands in a reasonable way to achieve them, and sit down, so to speak, with the other side and get things done like a grown-up, like grown-ups do, not children. I can't negotiate with my kid when they're kicking and screaming on the floor. We can't communicate. They need to calm down. We need to sit down and explain things to them. Same thing here. These protests are nonsense. It's stupid. That's not how you protest. Okay, flipping cops off and spitting in their face and throwing bottles on them, that's not how you get things done. But no, in a word, no, I don't think that's going to affect change. Not at all, because that's not what they really want, and they're not going after the real issues. How can you stop police brutality when it hardly ever happens? Police brutality is very rare, but in Chicago, they just shot 85 people in 48 hours. We're not going to touch that. We're not going to touch that. That's not serious enough. Let's tackle this 9 to 10 cases a year of police brutality.
Mm-hmm. What got you to do the YouTube thing? I watched your first video. It seems like you kind of just picked up your camera and started recording. What was the impetus behind that?
That's exactly what I did. I was listening to on YouTube, kind of doing stuff around the house, had it on in the background, and it was First Take on ESPN with Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman. And Max Kellerman was talking about how hard it was for black quarterbacks in the NFL. And I'm like, wait a minute, where the league minimum is $600,000 and everywhere you go, you're adored by people and sign this and kiss my baby. That's hard. That's oppression. Sign me up, because I don't make $600,000 a year, and I would love to if I could be oppressed and make that kind of money. So I'm hearing this clown talk about how he's talking about Warren Moon and how difficult it was. Well, yeah, that was the late 70s thing. And even then, you go back to the Jackie Robinsons and that era, they couldn't even enter through the front door of the venue that they were about to play at. So even in Warren Moon's case, they had come a long way. But for you to sit there and try to tell people that somehow black quarterbacks have it rough in the NFL was ridiculous. So I figured, this YouTube thing can't be that hard. Let me pick it up. All right, start an account, hit the red button, and here I am with you, Benjamin.
Wow. What have you? Has your kind of your position been shaped or changed over that time? Do you have like a sense of like where you're headed or where you've come in like a developmental sense or viewpoint?
I don't think so. I say some of my viewpoints have changed just being out there and being exposed to such a large pool of people, hearing their experiences and things. It's changed in that sense, but the core of who I was from that first video to now, no, I haven't changed. Not one bit. If anything, I've become more focused and more intense with it. Just depending on what happens. I might feel strongly about certain things and not about others. But as far as getting different points of view, yeah, I hope that I would continue to change in that way and take people's different experiences into consideration and kind of shape my opinion based on that. No, as far as, the foundation, no, it's the same. And as far as where it's going, man, I don't know. I'm just going to keep doing my thing and, hopefully people will continue to like it and I can continue to, to hook up with, interesting people like you and people that want to hear what I have to say.
What would you like people who are concerned about racism in America to do to get a better grasp on that situation? Or all these people who are pouring all this energy into black and white relations, what do you think is the best way for us to learn about each other?
I think we've already done a good job learning from each other, just being around each other and being Americans. Just, it's like your kids. They learn a lot from you just being around you. Everything you teach your kid is not, well, son, well, daughter, this is what you do. A lot of the stuff they get from you is just being around you and watching you. And that's how we are with each other. And as far as racism in America, there was an interview with Pierce Morgan and Morgan Freeman. And Morgan Freeman said, in order to stop racism, stop talking about it. And that's pretty much it. Put it to bed. It's over. Yes, bad things happened in the past. That's how it goes. You learn as a society, you change. Ooh, let's stop doing this. Maybe we should stop doing that. We no longer put children in coal mines. We learn. Okay, that was a bad one. That was a bad one. We want those little coal smudge faces anymore. So yeah, we're going to learn and we're going to evolve as a society. But I think the heavy lifting has been done. So we need to put this crap to bed, knock it off. Let's get back to work and living and being prosperous and happy and being American, man. That means something. People.
What does that mean?
It means choice. It means I get out of it what I put into it. There's no predetermined course in my life, like, the caste system or in socialism. The government's going to let you know what you're going to do. Here, if you want to go to school for it or whatever, however you want to obtain that goal, do it. It's all on you. America means personal responsibility. And it means people will get milk jugs and float here. Imagine bobbing up and down in the water in the middle of the night, hoping that you make it to land in this particular country. That's crazy. So as long as people are willing to do that, we got it pretty damn good here. And it just amazes me that we're no longer focused on that. But I think it goes to when you're prosperous and things are abundant and you're fat and content, we got to do something. So let's start messing with this. We're bored, as a society. And I'm not saying I want some 9/11 thing to happen again to get us refocused, but I think that's kind of what we're doing. But we just need to stop this race crap. It's no longer an issue. Let's move on.
We'll see if people do that. It seems like there's a lot of vested interest into keeping it going.
Yeah, it's lucrative. That's a moneymaker. All these boards and committees are going to create for racial, equality and all this crap. That's more money. That's more bureaucracy. That's more hands for this money to pass. So you got to pay these people to do their job. They're going to need an office. They're going to need an expense account. It's all a bunch of crap, man. It's all a bunch of BS.
Is this going to be your format? You're going to keep this format? You're going to get a studio, you think, or do interviews or speaking gigs?
To be honest with you, man, I talked about it with my wife, and she had a good point. She said part of your appeal is that you do the videos in your car on the way to work, so that's kind of part of your connection to people. And I agree. I like doing it. It's real. It's all something we can relate to. We've all commuted. Maybe we still do. But I've thought about it. It's kind of like if I'm in a position where I have the time, I have the money to put it together, would I be a fool not to? I don't know.
Well, great. Thanks for letting me pick your brain for a bit. And thanks for speaking to my audience. And hopefully they'll go over to yours and we can share some of that. But you do have something. You're tapping into something, and I appreciate your integrity, your passion, and it doesn't seem like there's ways to prey upon this story by being against it. It seems like you're speaking from a place of just honest truth with a core value that I think a lot of people can share. Just hard work, meritocracy, and kind of getting over the bullshit, seeing through it, and moving on.
Yeah. I mean, I'm nothing special, man, but yeah, that's the way to do it, man. Just work hard and don't be distracted by this nonsense, kind of let it just be BBs off a battleship, so to speak. Just, man, push that crap to the side, stay focused, do what you know is right, and everything will be okay as an individual and as a country.
Good. Great. Well, I think I'm just going to cut it there, man. Thanks a lot, Jericho.
Perfect. Hey, thank you, Benjamin, man. Great questions. I really appreciate you having me on here, man, and talking to me, giving a shit about what I have to say. And I'll, if you want, shoot me an email when you have it up on your channel, and I'll mention it on mine. We can do some cross-pollination here,
Yeah, cool. Yeah, absolutely. I'll do that. You enjoy the sun. I'm up in Washington. We're just living through the rain up here.
Have you seen any, the protests, or have you seen any of that nonsense?
Oh, the Chaz. I got some friends that went up there. I got my start on YouTube because the college that I was going to, Evergreen State College, 3 years ago had a major protest. That's the same thing that's happening now, where the black students made up some racial things that didn't actually happen, and then took the campus hostage and patrolled it with bats, and took over the library building, and then they were surprised after live streaming it that people reacted negatively to their behavior. I'm kind of in the thick of like the Washington politic, the ultra progressive, Antifa.
I remember hearing about that story, man. I don't understand how they think they're going to get things done. Just because you feel you were wrong doesn't mean you can act that way. That's childish. No one's going to take it seriously.
The administration did. The administration bowed over, gave them positions of power to rewrite the student code of conduct, paid them, gave them pizza.
Oh, that is
and they're
disgusting.
proud of it. It's a weird symbiosis between a certain type of bureaucratic. I don't want to go racial, but it is a weird kind of white guilt, and then black victimhood, and it just kind of feeds itself and feeds itself and feeds itself.
It's a perfect storm. Yeah. And what do you think would happen if the students who tried to do that look like you?
Oh, no way. No way. No way. No way. No fucking way that they would have gotten away with anything. The police would have been there. The administrator called off the police so the students could take over the building.
Oh my goodness. What?
If you have time, I've done a 20 episode documentary. You'll be blown away. Give you something to talk about. I'll tell you that much. I'll give you the link.
Yeah, do that, man. I'll check that out for sure. I don't get it. And how is that fair? They talk about fairness and equality. How is that fair? Where if you got a bunch of students together that look like you, they would have met you with billy clubs and tasers. But because the students were colored, here's some refreshments. Let me call off the dogs. What do you have to say? Like, what the fuck is going on?
I think it incentivizes. Well, it does. A certain type of white person will get resentful. I'm not going to go down that path. But there are certain types of, I guess, black people, but certain types of people will see that they can get special treatment, and they'll just act worse and worse. It actually incentivizes narcissistic, sociopathic, selfish behavior. And then that is the representation of a black person that goes out into the world of like these really entitled people. It's like, that's not the person that you platform. If you want to platform somebody from the community, find somebody that's making their way in the world, and if they have hardships, let them put their hardships in the context of, like doing the best with what they have to inspire people and bring them together, rather than dividing us into the gracious superior whites, that are so superior that we can just condescend to everybody else. I think it's disgusting, but
oh man, yeah, definitely send me a link to that. I'll watch every minute of it.
Yeah, I'll send you the link, man.
Jeez. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. You have a good day. Let's keep in touch, all right?
For sure, man. This won't be the last time. Thanks a lot, man.
Awesome. Night.
See you later.